What's up, everyone? In this video, I just want to quickly go over how to analyze a property. An agent sent me a property down in Muskogee, Oklahoma, so I'm just going to be kind of walking through my thought process and how I determine what I want to offer on the property, if I want to offer anything at all. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so an agent that's looking out for me sent me this property here in Muskogee. He said it's going to be coming on the market next week. It's going to be listed for 30K. It's a 2-1, 1,071 square foot, built in 1949. I have this tool that I use to analyze my deals. It doesn't need, yours doesn't need to look like this, but I'm just going to go over the basic principles and idea of what this is doing so you know kind of what your thought process needs to be. This may look kind of complicated, all these different numbers and formulas, but I promise it's very simple, nothing more than simple division or addition or subtraction. So all I do is I just enter in the basic information here. I think it was 1,071. And then I like to also pull up the property in the county records. You can just go to the county assessor, and this is a two bed. So I just confirmed that with 1071, built in 1949. And I just like to attach some links so I can easily get to everything I need just from my spreadsheet. Same with the county records. Okay. So it's coming on the market for 30,000. This is what we're going to be trying to figure out, this purchase price, but we'll just start with that. The first thing we need to do is figure out, okay, when we fix this up to the condition that we want to fix it up in, how much is the property going to be worth? Why is that important? Because it's going to tell us how much we can refinance the property for, how much money we can pull out of the deal, which is a crucial figure because we don't want to leave any money in the deal. So we want to know how much we can pull out when we refinance it, and then we want to make sure all of our expenses, purchase price, rehab, closing costs are less than that amount that we're pulling out. That way we're not leaving any money in the deal, and it's like you're getting a free house. There's a lot of different ways to figure out what the value is going to be. The principle is you're going to look for comparable sales that happened recently nearby. So ideally, properties that are 2-1 that sold in the same neighborhood in the last 6 months and are within 200 square feet of this one. How do you find that? You can just go on Zillow and mess with the filters. I recently got this free trial for this thing called Chat ARV, which is really good. And all you do is type in the property address. This is just doing what you would have to do manually. So usually you'd have to just go on Zillow, Truilla, and just find properties. But this, you just type in all the information and confirm it, and it's going to pretty much analyze properties sold nearby and see if they're good comps, comparable sales to use as your analysis. Now, with this agent I'm working with in Muskogee, he knows the area so well that I could just be like, hey, how much you think this is going to be worth when it's fixed up? And he'll give me a good ballpark figure, but you always like to confirm that, and you don't always have that available. So first, I like to go onto the map, see what's nearby. So like if this was a good comp, this is a 3-3, right? We're a 2-1, so we don't want that. That's garbage. So there's really nothing like in this exact neighborhood. There's some stuff over here though. This is like a major road, so we don't really want to look at stuff on this side, but this stuff's pretty close. I'd have to confirm with the agent to know if these neighborhoods are similar. See here it says in a more desirable neighborhood. So we probably have to adjust for that. Here's a 3-1. So 0.4 miles away, 3-1, a little bit bigger than ours. That's decent. Here's a 2-1 that is also bigger than ours. Here's a 2-1, 1,000 square foot. So this is a good comp. Looks pretty good on the inside. Also in a more desirable neighborhood according to this, but this is about what ours would look like when it was fixed up. The outside looks really good on this one. Um, Here's a picture of the one we're gonna buy. We're looking to buy. So it's a nice stone house. Looks good. It looks like could be some issues with the masonry or the foundation. They're painting the outside right now, which is a good sign. Definitely needs new gutters. Um, we'll come back to the rehab, but I just wanted to show that picture. So This is a good comp, right? 1,000 square foot, 2-1. So we'll select that. This one's the nice one. We'll select it because it's a 2-1. And how big is our lot size? 6,800 square feet, which is a little more than a tenth of an acre. And here's a 3-1, a little bit bigger. So here's two comps that are decent. They're both in really good shape, and they're both, I guess one's a little bit bigger, and they're both in nicer neighborhoods. So with something like this, I would definitely just kind of ask my agent for what he thinks it's going to be worth. And I might go back further in history to see if there's older comps. Just to be conservative, I think it's fair to say that I'd get at least 100, right? If this sold for 140 and it's just a couple blocks over, I'm comfortable just being conservative and saying the ARVs after repair value, that after we fix it up, it's gonna be worth 100,000. Now we got to get the rent. We got to figure out if it cash flows, right? Does this rental make money every month or does it lose money? So the monthly rental income, this is going to be a Section 8 property most likely. So we'll just go to this website. It pretty much says how much the government will pay you for providing housing for someone with a housing voucher. This is in Muskogee County. And this is a 2 bedroom, so it'll rent for 934. Okay, we have that there. Next, we got to figure out what the taxes are on this property. That's again in the county records. It's about 2,000 assessed, and you just multiply each thousand times the millage rate. So it's about 108 times 1.9. Call it 200. All right. I put 210, that's fine. Insurance, I just do 750 for a single family, and I increase that if it's multifamily, but I'll get an actual quote on this, but that's a decent guess. And then these all populate automatically. It's a single family home, so they'll pay for the utilities. And if it's managed, they'll take about 7%. And yeah, so this is going to cash flow nicely. It has a 1.3 DSCR, meaning the net operating income that this property generates after its expenses will be able to pay off the monthly mortgage payments with 30% extra left over. So it's going to bring in about 7,700 each year, and it's going to cost about $6,000 to service the loan, leaving about $1,800 in annual cash flow. So we could probably bring this up to 80%, right? You want this to be at like 1.2. And if you increase the amount of money you're pulling out of the property, it's going to increase the monthly payment on the loan, which is going to decrease the debt coverage and the cash flow. But you get more money back in your pocket, right? You're kind of pulling out some of that profit. So again, I was saying in the beginning that once you figure out how much you're going to be able to pull out of the deal and have it still cash flow, let's say the rent was only 700 bucks. This is negatively cash flowing now, so this deal doesn't work. But if it's renting 934, and the bank's not going to give me that if they are unsure that the property is going to support the loan. So we'll put this back. So I know I'm going to be able to get 75,000 back from the bank, or I'm hoping to, which means I want all of my expenses, my purchase price, my rehab, and my closing costs of both loans to be less than that, right? So here I just have this just calculates how much I can pay for purchase and rehab. Essentially, it's 75,000 minus the two closing costs minus the interest I'm going to be paying during the life of the first loan, which is just this holding cost, right? And it's $66,000, meaning if I want to get the house for free, if I want to pull all my capital out of the deal and not tie up any capital so that, I can't buy more deals, right? Because we want to keep going. We want to do a deal, put your cash out and do another one. That's how you grow in this business. So I would need to get that under $66,000, which means I don't have a scope of work yet, but once I get some pictures of the inside, I can estimate that scope of work. They're painting the outside. I showed that earlier, but who knows what the inside looks like? This could need a new roof. Kind of hard to tell from this picture. There's definitely some shingles that need some work. Uh, so we have no idea what the inside looks like. We have no idea how the plumbing or the electric or the HVAC is. We don't know anything. But once we get the pictures, once we get more information about the property, we can estimate a rehab cost. Let's say it's $40,000. I'm assuming it's something like that because they're only asking for 30. This says my maximum purchase price plus rehab has to be lower than 65. That means I could offer 25, right? 40 on the rehab, 25 I could offer. So, I haven't, unless this property is in just absolutely terrible condition, I'm pretty confident that we can get it up and running and rent it out with 40K in rehab. And if that's the case, then we would just offer 25,000 and we should have $559 back in our pocket. Yeah, at the end. So after we refinance, we're gonna get $75,000. We had to invest 74 for 41. So we're gonna have a little bit of profit on this one. But we'll also have the house, we'll have our debt being paid down, and we'll have a monthly cash flow of 150 bucks. So that's kind of how I walk through this. Now the next step would be to get those pictures and if this seller is okay with an inspection period, I would just do a rough estimate of the construction costs. I'd submit an offer. Let's say I do a rough estimate at 40. I submit an offer for 25. And then during that inspection period, I'll actually go out to the property with a contractor, have them write me up a bid, turn it into a contract. And if that contract is less than what we budgeted for, then I'll go ahead and close on the deal. So yeah, hopefully I can give you guys an update on this one next week. That'd be pretty cool. Otherwise, or we try and have multiple balls in the air at once. So I have a couple of other deals from this guy. I'm getting another contractor bid from a different property in Tulsa, hopefully later today. That one's on a tighter budget. It really needs like 40K and the budget is like 30 max. So I'm probably not going to be able to close on that one. So I hope this video was helpful. I know I kind of skipped through some parts and went through some stuff pretty fast, but I'm hoping this just gives people something to jump off of and ask questions on the internet. Comment below if you have questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions. You guys are like, this guy doesn't know shit. Fuck you if you're saying that you don't know shit. You're watching me, right? You're watching a guy with 5 subscribers and no properties. So, all right. Peace.